Okay, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Today is March 25, 2012. Pam's in the bathroom there. Not why I'm taking this picture. I'm testing the camera because it's been a while since we've used it. Anyway, I'm taking inventory of all my flight gear that I haven't had on in 30 years. The reason I'm doing this is because we were talking flying one day when I was flying with some people at the airport, and we were talking about the new glass cockpits and the new planes, and it reminded me that the A6 Intruder was the very first aircraft in the world. There's Pam. She's going to put all my flight gear on. Actually, I have some pictures of Pam trying my flight gear on a long time ago. Anyway, the A6 Intruder was the very first aircraft in the world to have a glass instrument panel, and by that I mean rather than having black gauges that we called steam gauges, they had computer monitors, which in 1968 and 9 was really revolutionary. So a lot of my flight information came to me from a computer monitor that was on my instrument panel, and then we still had some steam gauges, of course, but most of it came from, and there's my wine collection, most of it came from a VDU, or a visual display unit. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to see if my old flight gear would still fit me now that I have it out, because I got interested in studying the instrument panel sparked by that conversation, and that made me think about, I YouTubed some A6s in flight, and I was looking at the flight gear they were wearing, and it's remarkably similar to what we wore, so I thought it'd be interesting. I was trying to remember how some of this stuff goes together, so I thought I'd try. Good evening, audience. Here I am. This is the first time I've put this flight suit on in a long time. This is an old Vietnam Nomex flight suit. I'm sure they still wear Nomex, but I'm sure they're not as old as this one, but also they're probably more comfortable. This is a real coarse Nomex suit, but it's flame retardant, so it was what we wore. We used to have tan ones and gold ones as well, but you couldn't wear gold in Vietnam because that made the monks unhappy, because that's their color. And plus, if you had to eject, you wanted to have a green flight suit in the jungle, not a gold one. And the tan one were phased out. I think they use them now in the Middle East. But anyway, so this is the old flight suit. This is my old flight boots. The reason these were status symbols, because they're brown, and only jet pilots had brown boots, and helicopter pilots had black boots. And the reason is the brown boots have a steel toe, so if you had to eject and your toes got clipped by the instrument panel on the way out, they were protected by the steel toe. So anytime you saw somebody with brown boots, you knew they were flying fighter attack, and if you saw black boots, you knew they were flying helicopters. So this was the status symbol at the bar, brown boots. Anyway, so I'm going to try to put this different stuff on. I've only tried one piece before this taping, and that was the G-suit, because I wanted to make sure it fit, because I didn't want to be embarrassed trying to squeeze it on. Anyway, this is the G-suit, and this is the same one that I wore in Vietnam. I noticed it's still got my old serial number on it before they changed to Social Security numbers. My old service number was 0103087. I still kind of remember it by heart after all these years. But anyway, so this
How many years ago was that?
Well, I flew the A6 Intruder on active duty for 6.5 years. That was 68 for 6 years to whatever, 73 or so. And then I got out and I flew the A4 in the reserves at South Weymouth for 7 more years. So I flew jets for 13 years, 6 years on active duty and 7 years in the reserves. This same flight gear works for both the A4 and the A6, or for most Navy and Marine jets. This is the hardest part. It's not that it doesn't fit, the zipper is just old and rusty, but it is a little tighter than it used to be.
It's just the gut part that's making it tight, Bob.
Yeah. The legs still fit, because my legs are still as skinny as they ever were.
You mean the
Always too
toothpicks?
skinny. I can tell you that. But anyway, so this is the G-suit, and the whole purpose of the G-suit is this plugs into the
aircraft compressor system, and as you're pulling G's, it inflates this G-suit, or the girdle as we used to call it. It makes you look real trim and fit when it's inflated. But the purpose of the G-suit is to inflate, because when you're pulling 7 or 8 or up to 9 G's, which is the most that we could pull and stay conscious, when you pull G's, if you're pulling 5 G's, then you weigh 5 times your normal body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, for example, that would be, so you'd be like weighing 600 pounds, and all the blood in your head goes down into your lower extremities, and you lose consciousness. So this inflates and pushes the blood back up, and it's kind of comfortable for the first couple of G's, but once you get 5 or 6 G's, it's really squeezing you pretty hard. By 7 or 8, it starts to get uncomfortable, but it's better than not inflating and then you black out. So anyway, the G-suit is a pretty important piece of your flight equipment, and it didn't usually take as long to put on as it is right now. Most of these zippers, I'm surprised they still operate, to tell you the truth, because they're kind of old and rusty. And the G-suit was often pretty heavy, because in here you'd have your maps and charts, and in here you'd have some survival gear, and you'd have your shroud cutter for cutting the parachute lines and all that sort of stuff. Then after you put the G-suit on, then you put the torso harness on. I remember how to do this, because this still has plenty of straps. And let's see. It goes on like this. Now the reason you have the torso harness is this what connects you to the ejection seat. And it's good to be connected to the ejection seat if you eject, because the ejection seat is connected to the parachute, and you want to be connected to it. What I can't remember is exactly which strap goes on the outside of the boot, which goes on the inside. Why don't you just put that in a hole for a second? So this goes through there, this one goes through there, and that's, now I've got the G-suit on and the torso harness. Now by the time you get all finally suited up, this weighs 55 pounds.
Total, everything you have on?
Well, yeah, well, I don't have everything on yet.
No, I mean, but everything, when you get everything on?
Yeah,
Or just
including your
the,
helmet and your radio and your survival stuff. So now I've got and this connects to the bottom of the ejection seat, and the other half, and this to the top of the ejection seat. These are Coke fittings. I'm happy all this stuff still fits. Then when you get done with that, you get your survival vest. It goes on. And this was always really heavy, but I've got it empty because all the stuff that used to go in my survival vest is over on that shelf. But this had everything from your shark repellent up here to your dye marker here. And
did that inflate?
yeah, so you can see now, I don't want to pull that because this thing will probably still inflate if the CO2 cartridges is still good, and no reason they wouldn't be. So if you wanted, this is also your flotation device, so if you had to get out and you landed in the water, you pull that, and one over here, and this whole band here
Oh, that inflates.
inflates. So that's your flotation thing around your, and then it comes up behind your head. And then this still fits too. Then when you got all that stuff on, then you come over here and you have to put your ejection seat straps on. And what this does is this clip here clips to a flap on the ejection seat, so that if you have to eject, and you have your feet, of course, underneath the instrument panel, so if you eject, your feet are out like that, and you pull the ejection handle, these straps are connected to the ejection seat, and it pulls your feet back like that, so that you can go up through the canopy, and maybe your toes would clip the ejection seat, but they've got the steel toes. So then you get that on, then you just have one more piece, and this is where this is the sort of a mini vest. And what this did is, where is it? Here. And then you go by the Paraloft, and they give you your pistol and so on. That goes in here, in here, and then the ammunition in here. And you always had a 38.
Did they take that when you left?
When you left Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even when you're flying in the States, you had a 38 on you because you would use it for flares as well, because you put tracer rounds in it and use it as a flare. So the 38 would go here and the ammunition would go here. The 45 that they issued you, we didn't usually take with us because it was so big that it didn't fit in here securely. So some people that ejected that I knew lost the 45 going through the canopy, but a 38 would fit in here, and you could zip this, if it's still zip that closed so you wouldn't lose it. This old lanyard line is connected to, it's still there, a mirror so I can powder my nose.
Huh.
Actually, this mirror is for signaling a plane. But this was all loaded with a bunch of stuff, and then of course you've got your strobe light and your survival knife that will go in, and then of course you get your flare gun and your whistle in case you wanted to signal somebody, which I don't know many people who use the whistle. You usually didn't want to signal anybody around. But all this stuff went in here and zipped up. So you can see how this pretty quickly got up to 55 pounds by the time you're going after the airplane. And then there was the dye markers that I was telling you about, and that clips on here. And the white gloves. Then of course, last but not least, there's the helmet. I don't know if this is going to go on or not, but I noticed this left earpiece, the plastic must have cracked over time and it came off here, so. But let's see. Probably look funny with this on anyway. So that's the helmet. And there's my old Captain George oxygen mask. And that goes on, probably won't even remember how to slip this on, but it goes into here. Used to be able to put this stuff on so quickly. So that goes on there. That goes up there. And if I had this adjusted right, then this goes in.
And how about your visor?
There it is. I'm not as fast as I used to be on this. And it wasn't very fast then either. That's why it took so long to get ready for a flight. And then you had the clear visor for night flying, and the dark visor for day flying. And see if I've forgotten anything else. Probably not. But this is 55.
How about your knife there?
Huh?
Oh, you put your knife in already, right?
Yeah, knife
Yep.
is there. So this is, most of this stuff is original. Most of the stuff is original from Vietnam, like the mask. The helmet is not the one I wore in Vietnam because that was camouflaged.
And I sadly sold that on eBay. I probably shouldn't have done that. I know who's got it. I know he'd sell it back to me if I wanted to. Torso harness and survival vest is from Vietnam. So is the G suit.
Why don't you move back by the door so I can get a full picture here?
And some of this stuff was replaced over time when I was flying the A4. Some of it would wear out and they'd give you a new one for the A4. When I was flying out in Weymouth, in Vietnam of course, in South Carolina, and you never wore a flight jacket with it. But in South Weymouth, Massachusetts, when you're walking out to the flight line, you'd also have a flight jacket on as well, if you didn't have enough stuff. But as soon as I got in the airplane, then I'd take this off, because in the A4, it was so tight, you can't even work the gauges here, so you have to hold the control stick this way, work them here, then switch and work the control sticks here. And you could tap the canopy either side with your head. But anyway, it was a lot of paraphernalia. If you look at any videos online now, the stuff that they wear is pretty identical. The face mask is a little bit more contemporary looking, it's a little smoother, and the helmets are a little bit more contemporary with the way the visors come down. But the torso harness is the same, and the G-suit's the same. Survival vest is more or less the same. And that's pretty well it. So I think that's all the pieces except for the different paraphernalia that goes into the pockets. And there was a lot of stuff, like all the stuff that I took out over here just to save, because you'd have, you know, shroud cutters and that you had to put in, and these, I forgot, these chit sheets they call them. It is basically says, I'm an American pilot, if you return me, the government will pay you a lot of money, and it says it in about 20 different languages.
What's the hook there?
This is a shroud cutter, so if you get tangled up in your shroud lines parachuting down, you could cut them. All this stuff had to be jammed into the survival vest, so, and then your charts down there and everything else. So by the time you got on it, it was pretty low. But anyway, it was kind of fun putting it on, just because I don't think I've had this stuff on since 1980, which is the last time I flew an A4 at South Weymouth. And I'm just happy it still fits me after
Me too.
90, 2000. That's 30 years since I really had this stuff on.
I'm glad you're not a tub of lard.
Huh?
I'm glad you're not a tub of lard and it didn't fit.
Yeah. Well, as you can see, it's not comfortable to walk around in this stuff on the flight line.
No.
So you didn't walk too far, but but once you're in the plane, it was really pretty comfy, and it worked pretty well.
And what's the date today?
Today is March 23, 2012, I think. And actually, the only thing on my equipment that seems to have gone bad is the helmet, because this piece broke off here and this ear thing has come out, so it's hard to get your head in there now. But that's the only thing that really seems to have rotted away other than me. And, but everything else seems to work pretty well. This strobe light is original from Vietnam. If you ejected when you landed in the water, you'd stick that onto the Velcro on your helmet. This isn't original from Vietnam, this UHF radio, because they took that when you left country, but they gave me this one when I was flying the A4 in South Weymouth, and then they closed the base at South Weymouth and they forgot to take everything back, so still have that. They did take my gun. Didn't get that. They didn't take my whistle though, or my survival knife, or my flare gun. But anyway, so that's the stuff that you wear when you fly jets. And this is the stuff that I wore in Vietnam.
Are you going to take off the flight suit so we see you in your boxers too, Bob? Or
Yeah.
do you want me to...
But I just kind of, anyway, it was kind of fun looking at the videos last night, and then it reminded me what the stuff looked like, and then I was trying to remember how it all fit together, so I got it off the old rack over there and tried it out, and
And it still fits, still works. So,
Sure a lot faster taking it off.
yeah, well, these zippers here are made so you can pull them and they just
Oh,
rip apart. And the reason they're like that is because if you were ever in an aircraft accident, this nylon, of course, melts and gets into your skin, and it's really bad. So the emergency crews, as they pull you out of the cockpit, can rip this stuff off.
makes sense.
Rather than unzippering it, they can just rip it off because the zippers are made to pull apart. And so you're not trapped in burning nylon melting into your skin. This is as far as I'm going on the undressing on camera part.
Okay.
But anyway, ta-da! Jacket. That's my Squadron 242. That's the one we flew in Vietnam. This is from flying in the reserves, the A4 Skyhawk, the last of the scooters. And I was a Marine pilot, of course. Gulf the Tonkin Yacht Club from Vietnam, but that's the old flight jacket. Still in pretty good shape.
Hey Bob, show me the picture of you, the one we found there, of you back in about 68.
Okay, yeah. So, all right, so you saw what I look like in the flight gear now. This is what I look like in the flight gear well, this was taken in Vietnam in about 1970, so that's 40 some years ago. Same flight gear, same me, just doesn't look the same. But anyways,
Well, you still have the dark hair, just a little gray in there.
yeah, I still fit into my G suit, that's all that matters.
That's right. Yep. Okay.
All right, well, I've got to go fly. I wish.